And here we are. Hi, everybody. Good morning. And hopefully my voice will hold out. We went all night last night. Woo, you and I. Many of you. How are you? Some of you even got a little bit of sleep. I got very little. And yet here we are again. Philip Ittner will be joining us in the listen to that. Philip Ittner will be joining us in the second hour from Kyiv. A lot of news there. Holy smokes. Great stuff. And it seems like the administration was waiting for like the debate to clear before they let some information. I'll talk about it with him. We'll get there. Now, overall, first of all, hi chat room. How you doing? Post debate, I think everybody's in a much more elated and mood and less needing of maintenance. Let's just say after the last debate, that a lot of people, I think, felt very good post debate, and rightly so. And I mean, not everybody, obviously. Not everybody. It's not a unanimous feeling. For example, this asshole apparently is having a really rough one this morning. This guy. It's interesting that after the coverage last night, that a bunch of the images I'm seeing of Trump are him doing butthole mouth, because, like I said, this is one of his tells. When he does butthole mouth, that means he's feeling insulted and he's feeling called out on an issue, and he has no response. He knows he's going to have to pivot, like, how am I going to pivot this into something I want to talk about? And it's so obvious. And in all these, I mean, this precluded, I'm fairly certain this was the one where it was like they're eating the dogs, right? He does this all the time. And also, just in case randomly, over the course of us talking about this, I feel I always have to put the nunt warning up just in case. No doubt there's going to be a lot of nunt heavy pictures this fine morning. So just to just warning you, just getting you ready. Brace yourself. So Salon, the title of their article was "The Debate Was a Total Debacle for Donald Trump." Did not go. You know what? Before I go into the articles, there is a, let's see, what's a great example? Yeah, this might be better. This might give you a better indication. This is here you go. This is Trump Media and Technology Group. Look at this 5-year. There you go. He's almost there. This is the last 5 days. Last night did not go very well. In pre-trading, it hit a fucking cliff. So in case you're, right now, they're not even showing the pre-trading hours. This is when the market opened this morning. And if you look at the 5-day, you can see that last night, the price dropped from 1849 to 1564 last night, post-debate, pre-market. Now, I'm sure Trump and his ilk are scooping up this because he automatically owns 64% of the stock. Anything he buys at a very low level, in theory, if it drives up a little bit, he can make pennies on that stock over time if they can pump and dump it. If he can pick a time where it gets slightly higher. So he'll chase some of that and try to, and they're also, no doubt, Trump and his folks are trying to keep it artificially inflated. They're trying to pump it by buying it to make sure that it goes up a little bit and stays managed. But it's useless. I mean, it's a worthless fucking stock. I mean, if you don't believe me, it's not even, let's look at the financials, shall we? This is their revenue right here. This is total revenue, $4 million. Operating expense, $19.9 million. Operating income, negative $15 million. The art of the deal, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever want to see an example of the demonic trident of shitty business deals, look no further, ladies and gentlemen, than Trump Media and Technology Group, trading today down 11% in the last, 12 hours, 9 hours or whatever it was, since, coverage ended and pre-market could start. Yeah? Look at that. Look at that. The yellow one on top is how much the company costs to run. The one on the bottom is how much it costs, how much money it makes. The one in the middle is, the blue line, is how much it actually makes. The center is zero, meaning the blue line is just barely above zero. Again, $19 million to run Truth Social, $4 million in profits, $15 million in losses. It's just, Now, you guys know how much I fucking love the way stocks turn green and red on this in the stock market. Just like it right now, it's this down 11.4. It's obviously down. It's down 0.59 the last 5 days, down 3%. And so it's clearly losing money. But like if you look at it today, let's see, this is the projection. Here's all the potential projections of where it could go, people. By the way, all of these, every single, I don't know what the fuck that even means. Do you see this? The price, the chance, okay. The price of the stock right now is $16.42. Here's a thing about it trading in the price range of $51.88 to $4.95. The possibility of its range, and it doesn't even go up into these, is 90%. 90%. 90%. 90%. 90%. 90%. 90%. 90%. It's it's 90% that it will be $20. It's 90% that it will be $50. It's 90% that it will be $51.88. It is not basically it's 90% probability it will trade between $51.88 and $4.95. Which I'm just asking you, judging from the acumen, the mental acumen of the man we watched last night on the debate. Which do you what do you think? What end do you think it's closer to? Chat room. What do you think? The 51.88 or the 4.95? Because I got to tell you, it is a 90% chance, according to these predictions, that it stays within that range. Right? Meaning, I think where they're drawing that from is that if Trump keeps all of his stock, it maintains the illusion of being worth at least $5. Right? He's not going to sell his stock for less than $5 because he needs it that way. So they're basically putting a pin at $5 and saying, okay, he's going to, he'll lose money if he sells it for less than $5. He'll collapse the stock. So he can't sell it for less than $5. So 90% chance it'll stay there because he'll just sit on it, hoping it goes up at some point, hoping that and again, I don't know what the fuck these projections are allegedly based on. But you can see the mean average in these goes really askew. And if you get down to here, to this blue line, which is that it comes in at whatever this is December 9th. They're expecting it to be between 41 and 532. Wow. So as you go through this, the top end becomes less possible. They expect growth, though. They expect at this point, some of them are like, it could go this way. But there's also, I love this little line right here. This one right here, the one that just tanks, the one that just takes a giant shit towards zero. Look at that. That is an active prediction. If you look at the projection on, I don't know, like Apple stock or something, there is no tank towards zero by October 3rd. So good. So the blue one is the expected mean. They're expecting it to stay around this zone. They think it's going to be 1696. The majority of predictions are around it being 1543, that it stays basically where it is. Now, it's still going down because, again, it's at, here it is July, it was at 40. And then they expect it to sort of taper towards sorrow at 1846, and then it's going to lose to be at 1523. That's the mean, that's the average expectation of it. Even though the top end diminishes in all the predictive models, right? And the bottom only comes up 30 cents, 42 cents, whatever. The top end is like, yeah, that's not fucking happening at all. So I think this being indicative of, and again, here's the 5-day. And the important thing of the 5-day is, this is the debate last night. Here's September 10th at 3:45. This is yesterday when the markets closed. And then this, September 11th, 9:30 a.m., this is in pre-trading. People were dumping the fuck out of it. Overnight, people dumped the stock. That's how bad it went. That right there. You want to sum up Trump's debate performance? That's it. Look at that fucking cliff. Oh, it's so good. Anyways, so I thought that, of all things, chat room, that should tell you, there'll be a back and forth. Oh, the moderators were mean. Oh, they were, ABC ought to be shut down, whatever the shit he's talking about. And in reality, I think that's a better indicator of how people really felt. Because I'll tell you something. The Maria Bartiromos and the fucking Kudlows of the world will wake up this morning and kiss Trump's ass and castigate ABC and shit all over them. Doesn't matter. They're all gonna do that. But last night, they dumped his stock. Last night, they pulled the fucking plug. They were like, yeah, get rid of the last bit of it. It's at what right now? It's at 18? It's never staying up that high. But we're done. Pull it. Sell all of it. Last night, boom. Like cadavering the price by 11%. Overnight. It was already going down. So anybody who's like, we're going to watch, no doubt. Well, shit. Here's what the Drudge Report said. This was the cover of the Drudge Report. The end. That was it. Like, at some point, Drudge has been over the last couple of years clearly as it's kind of shown itself to be a true Republican site. And so I'm sure like maggots will accuse them of being rhinos and the like. But they definitely supported Trump in every way they could. They were fucking sweeping up road apples after him in the parade for as long as they fucking could. And then they're just giving up. Like Drudge Report is just, the end. Those are the 2 words the conservative Drudge Report website posted on its main headline on Tuesday night following Donald Trump's widely panned performance in the presidential debate against Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, widely panned. I think you're just being a little too nice, don't you? Widely panned. It was a shit show. It was fucking embarrassing. Yeah, dude ought to be ashamed of himself. It was, and he is. He did, however, this morning, shake hands with Kamala Harris at the 9/11 memorial this morning. Biden didn't, I don't think. Biden was like standing there with his hands like this, and you could tell he's like, fuck this motherfucker, right? Oh, yeah. Shit show. Nothing but shit show. The Drudge Report linked to Mediaite's coverage of Trump's being fact-checked during it. And let me tell you something. They're eating the dogs like that. I got a text last night from a comic friend, and I won't say who because I don't want to step on anything if he posts stuff or whatever. Just with that quote. Just with, they're eating the dogs, you know. They're eating people's pets. I don't know. I saw it on TV. Like he gave the same answers that like Jesse Waters or one of these like Fox and Friends assholes gets at a diner when they walk up to somebody in a MAGA hat. And the person is like one sentence away from saying the worst fucking racist shit. You know what I mean? So they're like, they're eating the dogs. Okay. So they walk around, you know. It's the globalist, and you know what I mean by that? All right. Right? He was giving the same answers you would get from those folks. He's a, you know, for all the old man yells at clouds, get off my lawn kind of shit, his reasoning is the same as somebody who was not president of the United States and had access to the president's daily brief, but someone who simply just watches a lot of cable news, absorbs very little of the details, and talks in broad swaths of, of generalities from the opinion side. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse Wigger, right? And has anybody checked in on Fox and Friends this morning? Yeah, I saw it on TV. What exactly? What a presidential response. I saw it on TV. Again, there is almost, that in and of itself, I would say, amongst other, like, because there's almost like you could standardize some of the lies, right? That Trump says as politispeak, and as him obviously, massaging the truth, if not fabricating stuff straight out of the gate, right? That's not unreasonable, okay? But it's obviously he peaks the meter. It's off the fucking rails. He's obviously making stuff up. But his excuse for what he says, which is always that it's somebody else's fucking fault, right? It's always somebody, like I saw it on TV. By the way, excuse me, the fake news guy is trying to tell me that he said something because he saw it on the news and he just believes it. I saw it on the news. It's not my fault I lied. It's your fault I lied. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but Trump got some bad news this morning as well in this category. Oops. Yeah. Inflation extends its cooling streak, hit 2.5% in August. Yeah. Now, they're probably still going to be a quarter basis point because of the jobs numbers and the fact that they were miscounting the jobs numbers and keeping the interest rate artificially high because of the jobs numbers, which, by the way, if we'd have had these jobs numbers, the real ones, the 818,000 had not been factored in, the numbers still would have been good. The Biden administration would have still had the biggest job growth of any presidency in history. They still would have had, on top of COVID jobs, made more jobs than Trump, by a factor of 3, I think, even without those 818,000. But without those being factored in equally over the course of all the jobs reports, again, they still would have been above expectations, still would have been great, but the Fed would have lowered interest rates sooner. which would help the economy and help the soft landing. But right now, I mean, the news is enough to drive down consumer spending enough where it cools off inflation. And also, as we realign supply chains, which is what's been happening behind the scenes, people are able to get shit again, and therefore the cost of delivering those goods is going down. Again, was there price gouging? Absolutely. Was it the primary reason why prices went up? No. The primary reason was plants of all kinds in the United States and elsewhere shut down because nobody's working at them. A bunch of those people died, so hiring new people and bringing them back in required bonuses and stuff. People didn't want to leave their houses for a long time because they didn't want to die to, work at a meat processing plant for an extra 6 weeks, no matter how much money you threw at them, because it didn't matter. You saw it on RT, yeah. So anyways, this is terrible news for Trump and co. It's kind of glorious, actually. I gotta say. By the way, you're watching Housemarks Mornings Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/Housemarks. Yes, inflation cooled, and still Donald Trump's stock took a giant shit. By the way, the entire, I just want to, the Dow Jones index dropped a point today overall, okay? And this is people taking earnings. And a lot of it has to do with the interest rate back and forth, whether or not it looks, because inflation cooled, therefore it looks like the Fed's not going to lower interest rates, or maybe is. Like, it's a lot of people riding that jock. It doesn't matter though. But in this margin, it's flopping all over the place. So people will get out. Last night there was a rout. There we go. Of, let's see, 4703 to, yeah. So here's your 7 points. Trump was part of the rout last night before September 11th. Now, famously, if you'll recall, on 9/11, there were a bunch of puts on U.S. stock and that kind of stuff. And there was a replay of that about every 3 9/11s, every 3 years, right before 9/11, where everybody's like, uh-oh, there's going to be a terrorist attack on the, and one was just foiled, by the way. There was news of one being foiled, and that it might have been part of a greater scheme. So the stock market people tend to do puts on airlines and that kind of stuff overnight, right? Just saying. Yeah. And so this is the general take overall. Here's what I was talking about. Where is it? Dow falls by 600 points after inflation report reduces chance of a jumbo-sized rate cut. Yeah. Did the companies not make money? No. Are they all improving? Is their bottom line improving? Yes. Was it enough for the people who buy stocks and have stocks, not because they invest in companies that will grow and then they can sell them once somebody else wants to jump on board and they're done investing in that company, and then they can pass their investment on to somebody else as the stock continues to grow? So, no. It affected the people who buy stocks and trade them the same day or a week later. Or it's silly, and this valuation, the larger the stock market gets, the larger the valuation fluctuation will be. This is the same, say, 20-point shift you would have seen in 2000. Does that make sense? Hal needs honey for his voice. Yes, I do. I need rest from my voice is what I need, quite frankly. But, no rest for the wicked, ladies and gentlemen. I will, just so you know, I am resting between morning and night show by not talking as best I can. So stop calling me. It's so funny because I'll get on the shows, especially where I talk the most about my voice, and I'm like, okay, I need a day of vocal rest. That's when everybody calls me on the phone instead of texting me. Hal sounding like RFK, yeah. I'm not sounding like RFK. I don't have it. It's not that bad. Okay, so shall we jump into, and I'll see if this is in here. Oh my God. Yeah, Andrea, keeping you guys up all night. Yeah, everybody's like, I need coffee. Yeah. Tell me about it. I'm performing on camera. I feel you. Thank you. And by the way, thanks mods for staying up late with me last night. You didn't have to do that. And when I go off the rails on a different type of programming, it means a lot that you guys come with me. And the viewership last night was enormous. Holy shit. We had like approaching, just on one site alone, we had, I think, 4,000 people in the chat room. And like cumulative, it was somewhere, if I'm looking at like all my sites, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, somewhere in the order of like 11,000 people in the chat on multiple sites. Like just, it was impressive. I mean, you would expect no less from the greatest live stream in the history of live streams, I suppose, wouldn't you now? So, but it was terrific. It was such a good time, and I appreciate you guys, those that were there, those that weren't there, and that you're going to watch it later. We had a great time going through the whole debate, start to finish, line by line, moment by moment. Here's the line on, this is MSNBC's take on it. Trump's debate meltdown was spectacular. MSDNC, right? Okay, I have to move this screen over. I need to fix this one thing because it's driving me crazy. Put this over like this, and then move this over like this because I'm running out of space on this side of it. So what do I need? I need it to go this direction. There we go. That's much better. And then I got to take it on the on the top line so that people in... Always takes a minute because the software is so friggin' slow. I literally started talking to ChatGPT last night, or yesterday afternoon, about, since it can code now, coding my own streaming software. Don't get me started. Like, it genuinely crossed my mind, like, okay, what if I did a ground-up OBS for myself that's just mine, that's proprietary and does something? We're this fucking close. We're this close. And then I was like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just use the OBS structure and build my own version on top of it. Ha! So, yes, I talk to robots. All the time. Anyways, so Trump's debate meltdown was spectacular. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. So, yeah. There's a long-standing theory in politics that whoever controls the first 15 minutes of a debate will go on to control the entire evening. That was certainly the case back on June 28th when former President Donald Trump dominated the first presidential debate so completely that Joe Biden faced immediate calls to drop out. Okay, no. I don't know who's writing this. Who wrote this shit? Max Burns, figures. No, Max Burns. Trump did not dominate the first 15 minutes of the last debate. Biden was clearly flagging. He was clearly ill. He clearly had a weak voice. He was clearly exhausted. Fuck you. He was clearly being hit by the Havana Ray, right? It wasn't because Trump came out swinging and nailed it. He was as shitty as he was every other time. He was just as bad. It was just that Biden's age showed through and scared everybody, and you didn't win. The other team defaulted. The other team had to pull their primary player because of an injury and replace them. That's why you got ahead, not because you fucking deserved it, you chimp. So lame. What a difference a few months can make. First outing against this. Trump spent almost the entire evening on the defensive against it. Okay, by the way, everybody on Fox, including and the other sites, I guess, they're talking about, like Geraldo and Bill O'Reilly were talking last night that Trump did very well in the first half hour, which is just silly. Now, there's one thing that I didn't point out last night, chat room, when we were rewatching the debate. And I kept wanting to get back to it, and then there was just so much else to talk about that I never got to it, right? I never got back to it. I put a pin in it in my head and we kept going. I mean, there's so much shit to cover that I forgot it. One of them was, because of their height, the microphone position favored Trump, and this is why. So my microphone right here is about like heart height to me, okay? And it's tilted slightly so that it catches a bunch of my voice. And when I step back, I'm really like, this is kind of the sweet spot where I'm talking right into it, okay? It's picking up me and not too much room noise and whatever. Harris's microphone was at the same height Trump's was, and she is shorter. So it was aimed directly at her mouth. And that's why you kept hearing her lip smack and her swallowing. It was directly right down the barrel, folks. And so you didn't hear any of his mouth noise or his dry mouth. The only time you heard his dry mouth is when he leaned over and he was going and he was talking and he went like that. And he specifically did it into the microphone. But you heard a lot of her, like, you heard her swallow really loudly a couple of times. You heard her, correct, almost adjust the spit in her mouth like everybody who talks, right? You heard that a lot more because of the mic placement. I'd like to say to her people, in future, make sure the mic placement is equal to the person she's up. Did it have a major impact? No. But if you listen to the clips and her talking, it is the generic height of the mic favored the taller person. Right? Yeah, there was a little bit of ASMR from her. Again, everybody was so happy with her performance, it didn't matter. But Kathleen, thank you so much for the super chat. And Paisley, thank you. Congrats on the 11K and greatest live stream of all time. Thank you very much. Yes, huge crowd. By the way, share the show and remind everybody we're out there. Hit that like, and if whatever site you're on, just type a hi in the chat. Just if you don't normally talk and you're not normally in here and you're just watching, just go over, just go hi. That's it. All you got to do, because that tells the algorithm, shit, this guy's engaging, which of course I am. So I'm learning. It's called the algorithm. We're calling it the algorithm. Yeah. Open your pod bay door. That sounded marginally sexual. I apologize for that, or maybe I don't. We don't know. Depends on you. All right. So, I don't need to read Max Burns' take on it. I'm just going through all these. Okay. We covered inflation. We covered the Drudge Report. We covered, yeah. Here's USA Today. This is the other take. Who won the debate? I love how they don't even bother to wait. Harris's forceful performance rattles a defensive Trump. This is the, yeah. Hi everybody. Hi. How are you? Hello. Hi guys. Hi. October 1st. That's right. Walls Vance is going to be fantastic. This guy over here, he's a weirdo. He's a couch fucking weirdo. I've never fucked a couch, and besides, it's a love seat. Don't shame me. So, who won the debate? Harris's forceful performance rattles a defensive Trump. Now, whether the public will, this will translate down to the public, we shall see, right? That's always the thing. And a lot of times, it's the independents, alleged independents, who are waiting to figure out who they're going to vote for. A lot of times, they will take just the general idea of who won the debate. They won't watch the debate. They won't engage in the debate. It won't matter. They'll see some clips online, but they didn't see the whole fucking thing, and they're not going to. But if they hear Harris won the debate, that's enough, right? And here's the weird part, is that nobody heard Trump won the last debate. They only heard that Biden had problems and he didn't do well, not that Trump won. And so it didn't benefit him after the last one. This is different, right? This is this is Harris beat him in the debate. They were on an even footing, and she cleaned his clock, is going to be the general narrative across the board. And I'll show you in a minute. There's a bunch of even the, don't forget to, okay, thank you. Let's see. Oh my God, there's so many. There we go. Oh, nice. And showing the green screen. Yes. Yeah, so awesome of him, Andrea, that, hey, kudos to Dr. Nothing, who came up to me at the Sexy Liberal thing and showed me that he'd made some scenes for me using green screen and for my set here, and it was really cool. He made some pictures, and he's going to help me with the set the way Rob Glenn helps me with some of the, just really nice. So I greatly appreciate it. It was really awesome, and it was nice to meet Dr. Nothing at the at Sexy Liberal. So thanks, Andrea. I appreciate it. I'll put one of those in today. Yeah, I'm gonna take one of those and put it into one of the scenes later on this afternoon. As a matter of fact, I ought to take this one. Let's see. I gotta save the image. I'm going to put this over here. There we go. And where shall I put it? I'm going to show you guys something. Because remember how I was talking about, this is such a side note, but remember how I was talking about, I need for my set here, I need it to look like I have a counter in front of me, like a console on the spaceship, right? So he, our good friend, Dr. Nothing, made one. Hold on. See if I can make this without. It's gonna be green for a second, but it doesn't matter because I'll fix it. It's the morning show. Relax. I'm gonna add this. Let's see. Still in assets. You got it here. My God, and the amount of fucking files that I have, ladies and gentlemen, is here. There it is. So drag this over here. Pop it in there. Boy, is that big. Okay, hold on. It's going to be totally green for a second. We'll fix it. Transform, fit to screen, and then we'll put on, then I got to do a filter on it, and the filter will be a green screen. Edit filter. Give me 1 second. I was so excited to use it. I'm just doing it right as we go. Boink. There we go. Okay. Close that. Nice. And then I'll take that and I'll put it right over me. There we go. And then you can see there's like a countertop here. That's like a computer. Like it looks like the space station has a. It's just cool. Like I know it's nerdy and stupid. I get it, but it means something to me. God damn it. So here we go. Let me go to this one, and then I have to on here. I've got to fit it to the screen. There we go, and. Move. Whoops. Stop it. You crazy. There we go. And then I put it on there. Now it's on the Instagram feed as well. It's cool. Now I just got to put in that little blue area right there. I just got to put a little screen that like tickers through stuff or whatever. It's just kind of cool. Look at that. That's super fun. All right. Does anybody care about this shit? No. Is that me? Is it my show? Yes. Is this one of the reasons why it's the greatest live stream ever? Of course. Joyful Warriors, people. We're having a good time. You think, and by the way, you know how I get on the right wing when they start making like soft jokes and like tap dancing around stuff. And I'm like, if you believed shit was as serious as you believe it is, that the country is ending because Biden is president and Kamala Harris is vice president. If you really believe that, would you be making these lame jokes or nitpicking around the edges of it? Of course not. You'd be just screaming from the rafters. I don't have that problem. Yeah, if you believe the nation was in decline, you wouldn't be able to make any of the remarks you want or whatever. You wouldn't be able to do that stuff. I, however, am fighting for everybody to have a good time, man. I just want people to be able to have a good time. Without some, like, religious nut or psycho-corporatist, Darwinist, trying to kill everybody because they only want, 144,000 people on the whole fucking earth. I didn't get the King of Ventilators sketch out last night after the show because I was exhausted. But I'll have it in the file by this afternoon. It's in the other computer, and I gotta clean it up too, so that it'll play on this. I've been doing a lot. So, anyways, thank you. I'll put this image Dr. Nothing's console in the other pictures because it'll go away in here. You know what I mean? Like so. Anyways, but I kind of like that it's in the comms and questions area. Anyways, cool. So, do we have an issue? Keyframes dropped. We okay? Because there was I was getting a lot of internet like flagging yesterday. Yeah. Did I sleep at all? I got like 3 hours. Something like that. Yeah. Not a lot, as you can tell, because I look very tired. I was tired yesterday anyways. All right. So let's jump over to chat room. There you are, you lovely folks. I'm going to switch this image because I feel like I need a bigger chat window. I'm working on that too, as you might understand. So let's see. There was now I want to show. Okay, I want to show you what's happening on Shitter this morning because it's the morning show. We used to do trends before we got all these wonderful guests and everything. And again, Philip Bittner will be joining us for the second hour to talk about Ukraine. The Harris team just dropped. Hold on. The Harris team just dropped a new ad based on last night.
Candidates to the stage: Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, I get it. That's hilarious. That's so funny. I didn't catch that until the last second because I just saw the image. Our newest ad just dropped. It's the whole debate. It's an hour and 40 minutes. That's so good. That is so good. I thought they'd cut something from it, so I immediately went to it because it was just up there. Oh, God, that's so great. Our newest ad just dropped. That's great. It's so good. All right. Yeah, so let's look at the trendages. Now, some of the stuff is being eaten today by Trump's 9/11 tallest building brag, which is that horrible thing he said about now that the Twin Towers have fallen, he's got the tallest building downtown, and it's fucking gross. Taylor Swift's endorsement last night, very big deal. Trump rejects Fox News moderators for debate. Let's check in on that shit. Now Donald Trump on Fox News this morning. I don't know that I want to do another debate. Hold on.
Right.
Hold on.
I don't know that I want to do another debate. Right. I don't know that I want to do another debate.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that I want to do another debate. They were so mean. Here's Trump on Fox and Friends.
Because they're dishonest, and because I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that.
Economy, what's your...
Yeah, so he didn't like being fact-checked. He called into Fox and Friends this morning and just bitched. He goes, let's see. This was the idea that he doesn't want Brett Baer and Martha McCallum.
Mr. President, I know when we started the interview, you said that you felt that you won the debate last night, your best ever. I think before the debate happened last night, the Kamala Harris people said that they would actually like to do another debate in October. And I know that last night Fox News sent letters to your campaign and her campaign offering 3 dates of debates moderated by Martha and Brett. One is October 9th in Arizona.
Well, I wouldn't want to have Martha and Brett. I'd love to have somebody else other than Martha and Brett. I'd love to have, frankly, Sean or Jesse or Laura, somebody else. Let's give other people a shot. But I didn't think Martha and Brett were good last night. I thought Jesse.
He watched the Fox coverage afterwards, and he was mad that they spoke about it honestly. You can't do that. There's no honesty in Fox world.
He was fantastic.
Are you being honest? Yes.
Fantastic last night, what he said. Jesse really got it. Jesse said Trump won that debate. We won that debate.
Did he? That I got to see. Save that one. CSL, we got to find that for this afternoon. I gotta say, because shit. I want to see his excuse.
By a lot. No, I wouldn't want Martha involved.
Okay,
I would,
Mr. President.
But I would take some others.
So,
yeah.
Mr.
I wouldn't take Martha because I wouldn't want them involved. Yeah. And this is, it was a rigged deal. The whole thing was rigged.
Trump. Mr. President, how do you feel about the night? 105 minutes long. You've done this before. I think your 8th one. What is your review of your performance?
It's real
Well,
quiet.
I looked at the poll numbers. I listened to Harold Ford. I don't know what he was watching because I think he wasn't watching the debate that I was in yesterday. I think we did great. It was 3-1. It was a rigged deal, as I assumed it would be, because when you looked at the
As I assumed it would be. You shouldn't assume. It makes a sum out of you and me.
the fact that they were correcting everything and not correcting with her. And we knew it when it was 100% good coverage for her over the...
Well, they didn't have to correct anything. What he wanted them to correct was, and by the way, he rebutted stuff. You know, he said if they'd have just played a little bit further of my, good people on both sides comment, it was perfect, whatever. So why would they have to fact check it if he did it 1-to-1, right? It was a little silly. They didn't back her up. They fact check and then they moved on. It's because he didn't leave stuff alone. If he'd have left some things alone, they might have fact checked her on some of her assertions about how he speaks. Or given him the benefit of the doubt on some of these. Now, does he deserve it? No, but that could have happened.
Last month or last year, I looked at it, and only bad coverage of me, no matter what. The press is so dishonest in this country, it's amazing. Now, I didn't mind because, frankly, I was pretty sure that's what they would do. CNN was much more honorable. The debate we had with Biden was a much more honorably run debate, but this was incredible. I mean, everything, so many things I said were debunked, totally debunked, like Charlottesville.
So many things I said were debunked. Yes, they were. Yes, a lot of what you said was debunked, especially they're eating the dogs.
I have a list of 7 different things.
Yeah, 7 things. Charlottesville
And she could say anything she wanted, everything. Every time I spoke and my stuff was right, they'd correct you. I thought it was terrible from the standpoint of ABC. They're the most dishonest, in my opinion, the most dishonest news organization. And that's saying a lot because they're all...
Dude, okay. So let's notice something. So Fox is pulling clips of the debate to play in the background while he's talking on Fox and Friends. While he's bitching that ABC treated him unfairly and that he whatever. Okay, what are they showing? They have 105 minutes. They've got plenty of footage of him talking, him doing stuff, whatever. What did they show? Right now, they're showing him, Grumpy Gus over here, and her speaking in an animated and in many ways, like seemingly in a positive way. Like she's just in a debate. She's just talking, and he's just a fucking slug. This is the footage Fox is putting over him talking, okay? It's her talking. And then what did they show twice? Her walking over, shaking his fucking hand. They showed it twice, right? They ran it in a loop. Here they come, shook his hand, walked over. Then they run it again. Here she comes, shook his hand, walked over. Then they cut to him just with his fucking flat tire face and her talking at him. This is what Fox is playing over. Yeah, and the video of it without sound tells a story too. It's so great. And she looks like she's debating very well. She's, you can see her gesturing. I mean, again, this is while he's like, this sucked. They were so mean to me, blah, blah, blah. And they're like showing this attractive, smart, commanding woman taking him to task, not being afraid to shake his hand, saying, let's have a good debate, not being afraid to reach across the aisle, right? All that shit. And here he is like, look at his face. Look at that. Look at that shit. Stupid lady. Stupid lady treating me mean. I showed up at the debate. She was mean to me. I went down there and they never gave me no French fried potatoes or nothing. That lady lives inside her heart. Yeah, somewhere between Carl from Sling Blade and Carl from Caddyshack, which would be, I think a great conversation. If they got something, chinch bugs, nobody even knows what that is. So yeah, the two Carls. Oh my God, I just came up with a good idea for a sketch. Carl and Carler. All right. It was a rigged deal. Boo fuckity hoo. Yeah. Okay. So there's. I wouldn't have had her. Okay. This is Trump on Hannity after that in the spin room talking to Hannity. We'll have that clip later this afternoon. 3-on-1. Boobity hoo. Cat Turd says, "Yep." Trump called them out. Loved it. He's talking about Martha McCallum and Brett Baer. He called out Martha McCallum. Can you imagine if Harris afterwards was like, if I was like, yeah, Harris called out, I don't know, Chris Hayes and not even Chris Jansing, right? See if there's another piece on this. Okay, he's not inclined. This is him saying he wouldn't do another debate because he won this one by a lot.
So, Mr. President,
I don't know that I want to do another debate.
Right. So you do right at the end, as I was interrupting. So you don't know if you want to do another debate. It sounds like you're a no.
Well, I'd be less inclined to because we had a great night. We won the debate. We had a terrible network. I think they were terrible. They should be embarrassed. I mean, they kept correcting me, and what I said was largely right, or I hope it was right. But what they said was absolutely...
That's a defense. That's your defense. What I said was largely right, or I hope it was right. Now, nothing says debate prep like what I said was largely right. Oh, God. Largely right, or I hope it was right. This is a grown man running for president of the United States. He was already fucking president. Fuck is going on? Hey, maggots, if you love America, why in the hell would you let this asshole anywhere near the levers of power? You motherfuckers think you're patriots, and you're gonna let what I said was largely right, or I hope it was right. That's the guy you want, and you can't go, well, he's an outsider. He was president for 4 years. He's a former incumbent who's running for office again. There's Phil in the background. We'll bring him in just 1 second. You don't get to fucking skate on that, assholes. Doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Here, hold on. Let me pop Phil in here. Beg your pardon. Let me scroll this. Why are you? There you go. Scroll down. Excellent. And I don't know. Let's see. Timescape, ladies and gentlemen. 3, 2, 1, and there he is. Phil Bittner, everybody. Ta-da! Happy Hump Day, my friend. Did you watch any of the debate? Did you?
I tried to stay up. I couldn't make it. It still screwed me up. I've been in a haze all day. Of course, I've done all the review of it. I've gone through, the stuff especially the stuff that's really important to me, in particular with Ukraine.
Right.
But generally, getting all the highlights and the clips. And this isn't always a shitty holiday, by the way. I'm like a holiday. Not a holiday, an anniversary. It's always a shitty anniversary, 9/11.
Yeah, right.
Don't know where you were on the day. I was in Moscow. And I
was in Toronto.
I got a filming.
Yep, was doing Queer as Folk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I was in Moscow. I had just returned from the second Minsk Belarusian, second or third election of Lukashenko. And I covered that. And it was the day before 9/11. And I came back and I was like putting my feet up and I was like, oh, that was a good assignment. And I get a phone call from my tutor, my Russian language tutor, shouting at me in Russian about planes, New York, planes, turn on the TV. I laugh because it's almost farcical, but this is always a shitty anniversary. So I'm like, I got a lot of mixed emotions going on. But the fact that she kicked the shit out of him, I mean, that is such a load off my shoulders. I asked around when, after the sun came up, because I tried to stay up for it, and then I snoozed off, and then I woke up, and that's when and then up until dawn, and then I sent out a thing to all my Ukrainian friends online of like, what do you take away from this? What should I tell an American audience? Because I knew it was going to come on today. And the general consensus I got back from Ukrainians was not negative, but lukewarm. Obviously not happy with Trump's evasion and his clear, like, read between the lines, I'm going to give everything to Putin. Whatever he wants to finish the war, I will give to him. And I will force the Ukrainians to suck it up. Also, by the way, exhibiting yet another example of how much he doesn't understand this conflict. So they were like, obviously we didn't like Trump, but we don't expect a lot from Trump. We liked what we heard from Harris, but the sense of things that I got, and this is worth mentioning in a larger context as well, not just in the day after the debates, was I think Ukrainians are really tired of the lack of resolve in the West to do something, to really, really do something. And so I talked to a bunch of folks, and my sense of it was anything short of Harris saying, I will restore Ukraine's nuclear arsenal or something, like I will. Yeah. Anything short of that is going to be like, come on, give us more. We're exhausted. We're fighting for our lives, and we're fighting for you. We're fighting for the West. We are the watchers on the wall. We're the ones that are drawing the line in the sand, whatever analogy you'd like to take. And they're really tired of it. I mean, they're really, really tired of it. So the reaction I got from a number of Ukrainian friends that I have was, obviously we didn't like what Trump said, but we expect that from Trump. We wish Harris had said more.
Sure.
But again, taking it into context, I don't think Ukrainians were going to be happy with anything short of like some sort of grandiose, we're going to give everything in our arsenal, including nukes, and and we're going to tell Putin to leave, or we'll be in direct conflict with NATO. Something that never is going to happen. So my response to my friends is, I get it, I understand, I'm tired too, I want to go home, but that kind of wish fulfillment isn't going to happen.
Sure.
And so, they're not unreasonable. They did hear what I had to say, but they're tired.
Yeah, and it was late in the actual thing, so I'm sure a lot of them, like you, are watching it after the fact or what have you, and a lot of it is that Trump's, I think a lot of people wanted a harsher pushback on Trump's bullshit, specifically. About him, like, I would have this done in a second. And she said, because he would give it up, and meaning Ukraine. Now, she specifically used that language, instead of it would give up Ukraine or something like that, to Putin, whatever. But that's clearly what she meant. And she was allowing, I think, she was trying to deny the right certain clips of language by speaking around stuff in the debate, not because she was avoiding the issue, because it was a direct statement, but she wanted to give it to them in a way that was not clippable directly, where you could, she could go, it's because he would give Ukraine to Putin or whatever. Might be, there's a reason why they think that would be, used by the right as a motivating factor. So let's just avoid saying it in a clippable way. To reassure the Ukrainians, they're looking for something clippable. That will come from speeches, and that will come from policy, and then the current story being that I guess Blinken, in meeting with the Ukrainians, has said basically everybody is allowing them to fire long-range missiles now. You're going to be able to do that. Real quick
That's
before
what it looks like.
Yeah, real quick before we move on to that, I want to show you something. This is Trump at the 9/11 memorial this morning, and this is a post from Republicans against Trump. A picture's worth 1,000 words. This is everybody. This is fucking Giuliani, who, by the way, I think is still leaking hair shit right here. This, if it looks like so odd. Listen, look at the side. Here's Schumer, and look at Schumer, by the way. Like, look at him side-eyeing this motherfucker. But here's Harris, Biden, Bloomberg. They're all being conscious of what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, and Trump is like, I do have the tallest building, except for this stupid World Tower thing, right? Just such a prick. So it's so indicative.
Well, and did you know that? Do you remember the first year of the full-scale invasion? President Zelensky couldn't travel to the UN General Assembly. He couldn't travel anywhere. That was the intense first year of this war, full-scale war. But Zelenskaya, the first lady, she did go to 9/11 for the UN General Assembly. She was given a sapling from the, I guess it's called the Freedom Tree that's at Ground Zero, or the Peace Tree. I've forgotten which it's called. It's been a while since I've been at Ground Zero. She was given a sapling, and she came. Right. And somewhere in Kiev, there is a sapling from Ground Zero that is growing as an example of the alliance and the partnership. Right. So that I always like to think about that as well. And yeah, I mean, what the fuck, that guy? Jesus, like the Manhattan skyline. What's this over?
Right.
I mean, come on, man.
And again, even that building that he's talking about, he doesn't own it anymore. I mean, he doesn't own most of his buildings because of debt and all that kind of shit. And it's, they're leveraged out the ass. But like, he barely has his name slathered on stuff. The interesting thing about the entirety of Trump's empire, as it were, is that it was always tenuous and based on shady money through places. But the root, like an infection, was very deep. Right? He basically had a root and a foundation, because the tendrils of the roots of this rotten tree went deep into the ground. Right? It was hard to pull them up because you pull a lot of stuff with it. Right? That is getting so over the last 10 years, especially, but since his bankruptcies and stuff, and since he refinanced through the Russians, his margin everywhere is paper thin. Yeah. It will just take a flick for a lot of his shit to fall. And I think that's becoming increasingly clear to those around him as well, which is why the boys are panicking and why Ivanka has beat feet, why she and Jared went and got that $3 billion wealth fund to manage, and are just siphoning off $100 million for themselves to start building a real estate empire of their own using the Kushner family stuff and whatever she's got left over. But she's no longer an employee of the Trump organization. She's no longer aligned with it anyway, because if it goes down financially, it will take Don Jr. and Eric with it.
So she's trying to distance herself.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
the writing's on the wall. Writing is on the wall. We just have, how many more days do we have to go? 50 some odd?
Yeah, it's not a lot. And Trump Trump didn't get he didn't get a glove on her last night. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Couldn't land a single thing on her. Whereas she, I loved just using the split screen as well as she did.
Yeah.
Looking just constantly, you could just look at your screen, and there was Trump blathering away, which, you know, is now just so played out and tired.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the screen was a woman looking at this guy going, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, man?
Can you imagine if I did that to any of my guests who are on the show? Like, just kind of like,
yeah, just sat there going like,
right?
yeah.
That and by the way, I you know, we always talk about how on like Fox and Friends and Hannity and all these assholes, there's a audience of one aspect of it. I really do think that she did that as much for the audience, and this was definitely aimed at independence and making her commanding and unafraid of him, which is super crucial when people's sexism is on the line in an election where you're going to vote for the first woman to be president in your lifetime. That's going to be a big thing for people. So her not being afraid to shake his hand, her not being afraid to face him, not to look at him. He couldn't even fucking look at her. All that stuff matters. But I feel like all this shit was just to drive him nuts, because later on, that's what he's going to see. Yep. He's going to see
when he goes back and reviews it. Yeah.
If anybody shows him a fucking clip of it, and by the way, he's got a crush on her. He's talked about how attractive she is. He thought the drawing of her on Time magazine looked like Melania, meaning that he found her attractive. And he sits there and he's fucking, he doom scrolls pictures of them together, This could have been us. Uh-oh. Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker time. That's okay. We've been having them pretty regular today. So. Okay, yes. All right, Mark. Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is. That's been true your whole goddamn life.
Right. My God.
Yeah, and by the way, I think 100% that when it's going to drive him to absolute distraction, because he's right.
He is. You're right. He's going to review it. And he's going to look at her not taking him seriously. And nothing. I mean, as you've said before, you can't shame him, but you can embarrass him.
Yes.
He doesn't feel shame. But he doesn't like to be embarrassed. He doesn't like to be mocked.
That's what
not taken seriously.
The whole butthole mouth when he starts doing that, because he knows he doesn't have an answer. He knows she said something and he doesn't understand it. So he can't come up with a retort for it because he can't literally process it. So he goes, he did that.
And you know what else? When she was talking about Ukraine, what I personally, and then my Ukrainian colleagues and friends and stuff didn't mention this because they didn't quite pick up the nuance of it. But her specifically saying, like, we gave them Abrams tanks, we gave them, she named a couple of military systems.
Yeah, she said javelins.
The javelins, that's right. That's what it was. The javelins and the Abrams tanks. Commander in chief, I mean, it's subtle. I don't want to make too big a thing out of it, but the fact that she knew these things means that she's been briefed. Could you see Trump going out there and saying, the attackums or the F, even like the F-16s, and the advantage that he might know the term, the F-16s, but why they're important? Of course he doesn't. The man does not do, substance or nuance.
No, he doesn't know which airplanes went. He doesn't, and he'll know javelins.
Or why it's important.
He'll know javelins.
Know a name or two. Yeah.
Because specifically, that's what he was withholding from Zelensky on that phone call. Because one of the biggest parts of it, the addition, that Congress had added to things was anti-tank protection, and it was the javelins that he specifically was withholding in exchange for a press conference about Biden. Right? That was in 2020.
That's right.
So,
and had he not, and ultimately had those javelins not arrived prior to the full-scale invasion, which, by the way, was done by Congress. I mean, they forced him to send those. Had the Ukrainians not had those, I mean, I shudder to think what would have happened, because that's what happened outside of Hostomel, outside of the airport, outside of all those northern suburbs of Kiev, where the convoys of Russian armor were stopped. That was due in no small part to the javelin.
Yes.
The same old tactic of knock out the front Russian tank, knock out the rear Russian tank, and then just riddle them.
Yeah.
That might not have happened had they not gotten the javelin. So she was spot on to bring them up and their importance. And it was a needle at him. And and his whole history with those is
well. Again, one of the things it is obvious he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't study. He doesn't prep at all. And it was clear last night that he did no prep. He figured he could just kind of free ball it like a rally and count on him being able to like shame everybody else because he doesn't feel shame, so he can weaponize it. And there were a couple points where she drew attention to things that, morally were wrong, especially stuff about abortion. And you could tell it just did not register with him. He just had this kind of like bitches be
and that's
whining kind of look on it. Yeah. But the embarrassment part came when it was clear it scared him on a couple of points. And you could tell that she knew what she was talking about, and she was using details he was not privy to or aware of. And so his default was to the, they're eating dogs kind of stuff. Like he was just going with whatever. So here's yesterday. Here's the Daily Beast this morning. Who won the debate? Even Republicans agree it was Kamala Harris. And so this moment alone, this is a big deal. So on the one hand, she shouldn't have to shake this motherfucker's hand. He's gross. That's his pussy grabbing hand, right? He's a nasty human being. However, the fact that she could do it and move on shows her strength as a candidate, as a woman, as a vice president, right? All that stuff. She's like, I don't give a shit. This is the job. Sometimes you're gonna have to shake hands at some of these meetings with some people who are fucking awful. But if you're going to do it for the betterment of the United States, or you're going to let people know where you stand, then you do it. You fucking do it. And that was abundantly clear in her walking out and do this. Now, Biden didn't have to shake his hand in any situation because Trump considers it a man-to-man, mano-y-mano-y, touch gloves and come out swinging kind of thing. And he just ignored him. But she crossed the stage and shook his hand. And so all of his bullshit, how's she going to face Vladimir Putin, fell apart. One of the big criticisms, one of the big stories that you keep hearing is Trump's, I'll see if I can find the actual
Trump
had to make her look weak, and he failed as a world leader.
Yeah. And the thing is, Putin will try the same technique. Because they're in many, many different ways they are cut from the same cloth, Putin and Trump. There's the machismo, there's the ego, there's the dismissiveness of women. And she, you're right. She took it to him. And if she can take it to him, she can take it to Putin. And Putin will probably respond in the same way. Completely unhinged because he doesn't know how to deal with women, much less a woman of color. So, just a magnificent performance by Harris there, and what a load off, the anxiety and the anxiousness, because when it comes right down to it, who wins in November will determine who wins this war. If he gets in, God forbid, which you and I both have spoken about this, and neither of us think he will, and I stand by that. But if he gets in, this war, the body count will get higher and higher. The war will not stop. Ukrainians will not bend the knee to Washington or to Moscow. It's one of the things people have to understand about the mentality of the Ukrainians. They've been a colony for 500 years, at least. They are of the mind here that now is the time for their independence, true and honest self-governance, sovereignty. We're not going to be a colony of anybody. DC, Brussels, Moscow, doesn't matter. Kiev decides what Kiev does. So for Trump to say, I would call up him and then I'd call up the other one and then we'd get it done in 24 hours, it reveals an utter ignorance of Ukraine and who Ukrainians are. Now, I'm not pie in the sky. Obviously, there are outside influences that will make a difference, but they're never going to give up their independence again. They're never going to be a colony again. Those days are gone. They're done in Ukraine. So the only thing, well, not the only thing, but one of the results of a Trump administration would not be the cessation of this war. It would mean that they would be fighting a much more difficult fight. Now, the Europeans are aware of this, and the Europeans are trying to step up. But we're the armory of democracy. We're the ones that have a much larger arsenal than anybody else. So it would just be worse. And now, if she gets in, by her, having, she said, I met Zelensky 5 times. She is well regarded here. I mean, there's criticism of the entire Western, fear of escalation and appeasement that they see towards Putin. But she is generally well regarded here. So you got her, you have Waltz, who, again, has been very vocal, even making one of the cities a sister city with Chernihiv here in Ukraine, one of his cities up in Minnesota. And then she said, she has in the past said that, I'd be open to putting a Republican on my staff.
In my cabinet,
I think,
right?
In my cabinet, I have we could be looking at Cheney, obviously. A lot of people have been thinking about Cheney, but Kinzinger. Kinzinger as the new NSA instead of Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan is widely, how do I put this? Not hated.
Reviled.
Reviled, seen as a disappointment, seen as a weak link in the chain, not being more supportive of what Ukraine could be doing. So there's a lot of criticism of Sullivan. But if Kinzinger, for example, were to suddenly become NSA, he is very outspoken in his support for Ukraine. I would love to see that happen. Look, a Harris administration means this war starts going towards a conclusion, I think. Now, I'm always thinking that Ukraine has the capacity to bring this to a conclusion if given the tools to do so. Certainly the will is here to get this war headed towards a conclusion. Because again, as I mentioned, this is exhausting. This is an exhausting war, and it's exhausting for the people of Ukraine. And they want it over. But they want it over so that it doesn't happen again. And unless you really spank Moscow and say, no more empire, no more imperial power, no more taking land just because you have some sort of concept of a greater Slavic world that, of course, you sit at the top of. We don't care what you think. We are a sovereign, independent country. And that will happen. It just is how many people have to die first.
Right.
And, one of the ways to lessen that body count is to give these people the weapons that they need and the capacity that they need. So I don't know, now is the time, I guess, as good as any to talk about what's happening currently here. Aside from domestically in the States, there's a lot of talk, not just here, but on the other side of the Atlantic and in London, about finally lifting this restriction on what they can shoot and what they can't shoot, and can they shoot, in particular, cruise missiles into Russian airspace. And it's, according to sources within the Biden administration, we're headed in that direction, and that's going to be a big step. That'll be a big step. So, for more reasons than one, but obviously when it comes to the war here in Ukraine, let's all get out there and vote, man, because a Harris administration means a swifter into this war. A Trump win would not end this war. It would elongate it, and it would be much more brutal. Much more. We would be looking at guerrilla warfare. We would be looking at a partisan war. You know, they might send tanks down the center of Kiev, the Russians, but there is no way that this country ever is going to bend the knee to Moscow again. All it would mean is more people would have to die under a Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
A Harris administration means probably an uptick in fighting.
Yeah.
In the immediate term, it would get a lot more intense because probably we'd be looking at a lot more weaponry. Mm-hmm. But it would also, I believe, mean a victory here that would be lasting, and we could put this behind us. And one of the great questions of Europe would finally, once and for all, be answered, and a bright new future. Hopefully, I mean, world wars don't start in the Holy Land. World wars start here.
Yeah.
in this land between empires.
Well, the ones with guns and ammo, the sword fights often did, but a lot of times they also started in the area where the Mongolians were given territory by the Muscovites to run roughshod over Eastern Europe and murder a bunch of people. And you could argue that the long tradition of Putin-esque behavior by the Muscovites is why so many people on the earth have Genghis Khan's DNA in them.
Ooh, that was another thing. You just reminded me. Her mentioning of the 800,000 Polish.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania.
Super smart.
Boom.
Yeah.
That was great. That was fantastic. How many cities in Pennsylvania have a statue up to, Casimir Pulaski, or to Tadeusz Kościuszko? These guys that came. You have to understand, at that period in time, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was fighting against their aristocracy, which were puppets for Moscow. Mm-hmm. So these guys had led a revolution against the Polish puppets of Moscow, in essence against the Tsar. They lost that fight, and then they went to the 13 colonies and fought for us. How many towns in Pennsylvania? How many towns in Illinois? All the Midwest is just littered with monuments to Polish fighters and to that legacy of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the common struggle against the despotism of the Russian Tsars. Mm-hmm. Genius move to bring up the 800,000 Polish in Pennsylvania. Absolutely, just such a masterclass.
Meanwhile, Trump didn't even have the forethought to put antiperspirant on his upper lip, and I don't know. It's such a rookie move. Just in case
that's what got Nixon, right? That's what got Nixon.
Yeah, and Trump considers himself an acolyte of Nixon, right?
He and his buddy Roger. Yeah.
By the way, so in line with. Anyway, in line with what you were saying, there's a report this morning that that Ben Cardin, who is let's see if I can bring this up. Ben Cardin, who is the top Senate Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee, is urging Biden to allow Ukraine to strike deep into Russia. He's joining some of the Republicans who have been for this for a bit, which is interesting. The wording of this joins House Republicans. Because the majority leadership of House Republicans, including Mike Johnson and the fucking Freedom Caucasians, they're all against it, right? But it's the vast majority of regular rank and file Republicans who are like, this is just dumb. Russia can strike all the way to fucking Lviv, but if Ukraine fires over the border, and hits a fucking oil depot or an ammo depot well inside Russia, somehow that's a fucking red line. How about fuck you? How about mile for mile, meter for meter, kilometer for kilometer? If they fire into Lviv, we can fire a missile as far in as their missile came from Russia into Lviv. If that missile, reaches, if it's fucking, 3,000 kilometers and from where they fired it to where it landed, that's how far in we can do it. If we can do it right from the Donbass and fire 3,000 kilometers in, that's how far we could go. How about that? How about just one for one? kilometer for kilometer, you dumb motherfuckers. But again, Trump brought up the nuclear weapon thing last night because again, Russia uses mutual assured destruction as a protection racket. You don't. If you try to stop me from sexually assaulting your wife, I'll kill your kids. That's what he's doing. That's what they're doing. That's what that is. They are fucking BTK. I've got your kids tied up in the basement. If you don't let me do what I want to do right here, I will murder them. That's what they're talking about. If you try to fight back, I will kill your kids. That's what they mean. If you get my gun away from me and shoot at me with it, I'll set off a bomb that blows up your kids. If you try to stab me, I'll shoot everybody in the family. That is, I think, a perfect one-to-one analogy of Russia's sort of, I hesitate to say they're like war plans, but
yeah, they're terrified of us calling their bluff. By the way,
yes.
If you listen to the words that are not only in their mass media, but even like Peskov or Zakharova, they're terrified of the West calling their bluff because they won't know what to do. That is the entire posture. Yeah, the entire posture. Joe Biden raises Ukrainian hopes
of go ahead to fire missiles supplied by West deep into Russia. This is from Yahoo News, from the Evening Standard, and this is. And by the way,
you've heard me say it before. The second we get November in our rearview mirror, the second Trump is no longer a threat to our body politic, and remember, I still believe firmly that Trump is a Russian asset. He is. Yeah, he's compromised by Russia, one way or the other.
Yeah, he's a useless idiot.
Or they have said, when one of the first thing he did was call in the ambassador and Sergei Lavrov into the Oval, and everybody had left except for one photographer, a Russian,
right?
Itartas, I believe it was, cameraman. They must have said to him, like, right off, like, if let's presume that he wasn't aware, which I don't believe, but whatever. Yeah. The second they were alone in a room together, Lavrov turned to him and said, "We own you. We have all the dirt. We got."
That's why they were all laughing, and Trump wasn't. Trump looked like a dude, had this "Hey, wait up, guys" look on his fucking face, if not direct panic in all of those photos. He's like, what? What are we joking about? I don't understand what you guys are saying. Oh, we were just laughing out loud about how we're going to fucking kill you when we're done with you, like we do everybody else. That the second the election is called and it's over, because I don't think Biden has taken this position when it comes to the war in Ukraine. Sullivan is a different story, but I don't think Biden agreed.
Or has been as supportive of this, fear of escalation issue that seems to be hampering Western support for Ukraine. But I do think that they recognize that an escalation here that went badly for anybody, for Ukraine, for Europe, just body count, whatever.
Yeah.
That had an escalation happened that went badly, that could have been a corridor for Trump to get back into the Oval, and nobody wants that.
Yes.
The second that this thing is done.
Here's the other. There's another side of that.
In the past,
there's another side to that as well, because if you're Ukraine and Donald Trump's getting in, and you have a certain amount of weapons supplied, and he's going to do everything he can to curtail this, the day after he won the election, if it happened, it would be in your best interest to just let the eagles soar, as John Ashcroft would say. Fire away, and God see you on the other side. It was nice working with you, Dr. Venkman, because there's no reason to hold back, because he's going to hamstring you. So it would best suit you to fire deep inside Russia, to strike as many strategic targets as possible so that you could genuinely undermine their war system, factories where they're producing tanks and ammunition, supply chains, bridges, all kinds of shit like that. It would make total sense to go, okay, this asshole's coming in. Fuck this then. Literally, you want to escalate this war instantly with no sort of strategic backing, almost on a backed into a corner Wolverine up against the wall kind of a moment. That's how you do it, is you put Trump in charge, because quite frankly, the Ukrainians know they'll get some backup from the Europeans. The Europeans are a little more hardline about this than we are, except for the Germans, right? And they know
what, again, the non-escalatory thing.
Yeah. So they're
that's who's going to be on this week. I've got somebody on this week. This week on the show, on this coming Sunday's show, if all goes to plan, and we haven't filmed it yet, so I don't want to jinx it. But I'm going to be talking with an expert, a European think tank expert, who's traveling on a delegation to Kiev, and she's in town, and we'll sit down and talk about what do Europeans think about this war. And you're right. There are a lot of European nation states. I think the Dutch, I think obviously Poland, the Baltics, even Dutch. Scandinavian countries. Yeah. What's the line?
Yeah,
I hate people who can't. People who are
intolerant of other people's cultures, and the Dutch.
And the Dutch.
What?
That's a great.
Take him away. Yeah.
But I think of European nations like the ones that have skin in the game, the ones that are on the doorstep with Russia, who have been very vocal, and they're like, screw that. Well, we just had a cruise missile violate Romanian airspace, for God's sakes. You know? A Russian cruise missile violated Romanian airspace. They decided not to shoot it down because they didn't want to see escalation. But those guys have been very vocal in their and the Brits have been very vocal. But yeah, for some reason, the Germans, the Italians, obviously the Hungarians, but for very different reasons. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to it. We're filming it tomorrow. And that's what I hope to bring this Sunday, is a discussion of where does Europe stand in all of this, and perhaps we'll discuss that factor of, like, you know, if America is no longer a reliable partner, does that mean that European nations have to step up? So
and they, and again, the alliance that Biden has built is going to be is strong, and so this is. I wanted to point this out.
Another legacy for Biden.
Right, but this is Washington and other European states are becoming parties to the war in Ukraine. Motherfucker, it's almost 3 years now.
Yeah, we're partners.
We're becoming. Are we? Are we becoming? Right, like, again, it's this weird, like, there are a movement of red lines where, like, if you dare do this, we're going to fuck you up. They've done this a few times. And then as soon as we get to that line and step over it, and they're like, what are you going to do? That line moves back way over here, And this is another example. And again, this whole, like, are becoming parties. Motherfucker, you dragged us into this by attacking Kiev, not just from your own country, but through coordination with Belarus. The minute they brought Belarus into this, and they launched attacks from Belarusian soil, right? This became not just Russia attacking Ukraine as it had before, which would have been bad enough, but it became a coordinated effort between Moscow and another fucking country to attack a sovereign nation and violate the international rules of law and norms and stuff. This is not just simply them poking their way into Georgia across their own fucking border and seizing a little bit of land. It became much bigger the second he brought in Belarus into this process. And it might have been his singular, besides being a dumb fuck, this might have been Putin's biggest strategic mistake, was using Belarus as a staging ground and coordinating with them, because, again, it made it way bigger than just bleeding into the Donbass and taking your land, right? Which is what they've done, which is why they've been able to dodge a lot of this shit in 2014. Right?
Well, remember what we started this conversation with was, what is it? Is it the 23rd anniversary? I was in Belarus the day before the planes went into the Twin Towers, for the very same reason that you're discussing now, is that Belarus is a puppet client state of Vladimir Putin. You know, they don't have independence and sovereignty. Ukraine at that time was similar, but then they had a revolution. I mean, I don't know if you saw last week's episode with Chef Zinya talking about being here for the Orange Revolution in 2004, going back to LA, picking up his life in LA, but then 2014 happened, so he comes back for that as well. You know, it's Moscow could have reformed. They could have after 91, if they'd done the hard work that they know they have to do. They know it they know it internally. They just don't want to do it. Had they done that, we wouldn't be here, because it would be Moscow would not seek to restore its empire.
Yeah.
You know,
here a couple of things. One is, more and more, I am convinced that I've been right for quite some time, that the entire 91 fall was a rope-a-dope, and that the Russians specifically went, we can't outspend these motherfuckers. Let's fall back to win. And we will use the fact that, like, oh yeah, rock and roll and blue jeans, motherfuckers, come on over here. You can do business with us, and we, like the Chinese, will sap your funds for as long as possible. They're looking at what Deng Xiaoping said, which is, hide your strength and bide your time. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon. That's what the fucking phrase means, except in Chinese it's backwards. It's Changlong Wohu, which is, it's hidden dragon, crouching tiger, just so you know, is the actual phrase. But they saw what Deng Xiaoping was saying. Like, oh, I get it. You guys you're gonna have a revolution where you're gonna have the country you want, and you're gonna have the West pay for it. That's what you're gonna do. That's what China's plan was. And the only reason they fucked up right now is because Xi Jinping wanted it to happen on his watch. The other Chinese leaders were comfortable with it happening down the line, this 50-year plan, right? So they were happy to be part of the great movement where they brought the Chinese people into the modern era. They basically dome off China. We've got all the technology we will ever need. Fuck you guys. And when they destroy the world, we'll be safe within our borders. That was where they were all headed, right? And the West will pay us. We'll become the factory floor of the world. And the West will pay us to build up our military and all this other shit. So when the day comes, we're going to run everything. That's that. And they were happy to, Hu Jintao, Deng Xiaoping, they were happy to look down the line, pass off the baton, because they were part and parcel to this long-term plan. Xi Jinping went, nope, I want to be the guy. I want to fucking dunk the ball. I want everybody to clear the fucking field. I want to be Kim Jong-un, and I want everybody to see me do it. And he fucked it up. He fucked up the whole plan. And the same thing happened, with in a
lot of ways in Moscow. Yeah, except we've talked about this before. I don't think it was quite a roped up, because I do think that there were some genuine things happening internally within the Soviet Union that made it kind of an inevitable collapse, and it's on them. They made some really stupid. Well, anyhow, they made a lot of the idiocy.
People that took over, right? But the people that took over.
Well, when Putin took over, Yeltsin didn't care, because Yeltsin was a drunk, and also during that period of time, they didn't care about anything except for making a shitload of money. Anything that wasn't tied down. If you used to be a party boss in a small town that had an automotives work or a ball bearing or someplace where they rip, whatever out of the soil, natural gas or, whatever. You instantly turned from party boss to multi-millionaire, and you had a house in the south of France and a yacht and a beautiful mistress and, mansions everywhere and all the rest of that. That was Yeltsin's period of time. When Putin came in, the first thing he did was crack down on that shit. But then immediately went to, how do I restore the empire? How do I restore?
Right, but that's it. Here's what I'm saying. That long term, that's exactly the strategy.
Right.
That
Yes, I
you know
agree
Gorbachev
100%.
is going to be the guy that will reach across to Reagan. Reagan will buy it because he's a sappy dipshit, grandpa of America. And then Yeltsin will be the guy who will kind of toe the line and keep this going until such time we just pull the fucking rug. He's not going to be a powerful leader. He's not going to be a guy who goes, wait a second, we're trying to build a goddamn democracy here. He's a fucking drunk. So they put him, they allow that, even support him in that process because he's easier to topple later. That was the purpose. That's what I'm saying. Like from a strategic, hindsight's 2020. From a strategic standpoint, all of it fucking lines up with these motherfuckers in the KGB who were the true bloods of this whole thing going, all right, how do we manipulate the West long term?
Once they got Lebed, there was a guy by the name of what was his first name? Alexander Lebed. Anyway, General Lebed, who was widely loved in the Russian Federation post-Soviet Union, and he was a potential for the next president after Yeltsin, and he was Army. He was, because the Army is not the KGB. The two frigging hate one another. They hate one another. I do sometimes wonder what would have happened if Lebed had become the president after Yeltsin instead of the FSB asshole. Lebed, and also Lebed died in very, sketchy circumstances. What would that country have looked like had it gone down the road of being led by a member of the military, who tend to be far more pragmatic and far more
less ideological.
Let's have stability. Let's have stability. Let's grow our military, but let's have stability. Guys like Putin and the intelligence community are always scheming. The third route would have been some sort of economic liberalism, which would have been a very hard. There was nobody to get in. The Nemtsov was never going to be a president of the Russian Federation. These kind of liberal European reformers.
You look backwards and you go, why would your transitional guy, which you lift up, and it wasn't like they had a structure set up where they could have legit elections on any major way, or that weren't manipulated by the KGB, which was still arguably in charge. Right, it was just fucking silly.
Build a proper court system.
Yeah. Why would you put like a Yeltsin in charge, except for the fact that he's easy to remove? He's a placeholder until that person comes in. And that turned out to be exactly the fact. And then what did Putin do? He came in, and then for a little while they played footsie with how the new constitution would work about having a prime minister and a president. And then they just fucking blew it off after a certain time. So the strategy, a 30-year strategy is fucking nothing in geopolitics, right? And if the 30-year strategy is, we'll go from we're never going to outspend these motherfuckers. We're looking at what China's doing, and it's brilliant. So we'll borrow a page out of that book. We'll do oil so that we don't have to get these assholes in here. We'll sell everything out from under us because they'll come in and buy it, and we don't need it anyways. And we'll use it to buy new shit. And then in 30 years, I will weasel my way to the top of this pile, and we'll show them who's boss. And it just looks like that's how it played out. Like, again, I'm very aware that in philosophically speaking, I am making what I would call the Ed Kemper mistake, which is the only serial killer you seem to know about are the ones you've been able to catch. And everything, hindsight being 2020, it's all based on what you're drawing attention from all the things you can see that happened and not the things you can't see that did happen and things that could have happened. Right. I get it. However, from a strategic standpoint and the obvious forward thought of someone like Vladimir Putin, who is the richest man on earth and makes $140,000 a year, from the kind of guy who has mistresses in London and houses all over the fucking world, yachts parked, anywhere he might need to bug out to at any given time, right? That guy's thinking ahead. He's got 4 fucking escape plans. I wouldn't doubt at this point if Vladimir Putin didn't have a fucking hollowed out volcano lair someplace, just that he built on a whim in 1995. How much would it cost?
There are.
How much would it cost? How much would a hollowed out island lair cost? $1 billion? The dude's worth 200. How much would it cost? Right? Nothing. So the point being is that I think they, whether or not everybody was on board, there was clearly a line of these motherfuckers where they looked at the West and they were like, yes, I did say $140,000 a year, Rhonda, in the chat room. Putin's salary is $140K US. That's what he makes. That's if he did taxes, that's what his salary would be listed as. And he's worth $200 billion. I'm just saying he's been stealing his country blind.
Go watch a documentary called Putin's Palace, which Navalny did in collaboration with a couple of journalistic outlets. That guy is not on $140,000 a year.
He's got
his palace in Sochi is insane.
Yeah.
Opulence is not. It doesn't do.
And that's the one you can. And that's the one you can see again.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I have to say, one of the things I keep going back to in World War II is the fact that the Allies very successfully used inflatable tanks and empty tents and cardboard cutouts of human beings to trick the German Luftwaffe into thinking that we were coming from the exact opposite direction we were coming before D-Day. So they flew over like, oh my God, look at all these tanks that are amassing on the border, right? And so they're obviously coming from this way, and we were coming from the other way. And that's partly why we won. It was because all the intel that Hitler was getting was fucking the exact opposite of what was happening, okay? After spending time in China, believed that a lot of the empty ghost city buildings that were like, who the fuck is building buildings that people aren't going to live in? What kind of stupid, okay, could it be stupidity? Sure. Is it more likely the modern version of inflatable tanks where they are, from an economic and growth standpoint, they are presenting to the world that we are the fastest growing economy in the world. We are super modern. Our people have, our system has jettisoned all these people out of poverty. Yet Bernie Sanders in the 2016 campaign saying China has brought 300 million people out of poverty, which is fucking bullshit. I was there. He was there too, but he was on the tighter, we've got a politician here. We'll show him exactly what we want to see. I was the annoying American who goes for walks. I'm the guy who, when he's working on the TV show, is going where the propaganda ministry was pointing us, which was increasingly annoying, to all these different sites, okay? Everywhere else, I was like, hey, it's nighttime. Let's go see the fucking, I'm going to walk down by the riverfront. Let's see what the city's like. Let's see if there's clubs open. Let's see what's it like here, because maybe that'll help me inform what I'm talking about on the show tomorrow when we're filming these things. And it was ass, and the buildings were broken down. People were running plugs from buildings two apartment buildings down the block, running extension cords to 3 other buildings in these Gordian knots of electrical cables. And the front of the place looks super modern and glassy and all this shit. And if you flick it, it falls apart. That's inflatable tanks. That's the Chinese doing their version of inflatable tanks. Well, what's the Russian version of inflatable tanks? Party like a Russian, man. We're good. We like all the things you like. So just come on over here and spend your money and hang out and party and that guy. Hey, Scott Ritter, come on over here. You like 15-year-old girls? Knock yourself the fuck out, buddy. Yeah. Hey, have at it. We don't care. We're cool. Unlike your fucking country, you can go fuck a 14-year-old here. We're fine. Now we have footage of it now. So you might want to say what we want you to say from now on. And if you do, you're cool, and we won't show it to anybody. And if you're really good, come on back, and we'll let you fuck another one. That seems like a long-term fucking plan to me.
That's who they take when they have these people over. They take them to St. Petersburg, or they take them to Moscow, maybe Sochi. Maybe one of the larger cities like Ekaterinburg or even Vladivostok. But you go to the real Russia, and it's a shithole. It's an absolute shithole.
Right. And none of them go there. Not look at again. That's the Tucker Carlson interview, right? Him in the fucking grocery store, him in the fucking subway station, right?
Metro.
That was it was the exact same fucking thing. And dude, I did a travel show in China, and I didn't, when I first went to China in 2001, that was my first trip there. I was fundamentally naive to where China was headed. And it wasn't headed as directly in that direction as it was under Xi Jinping. It did it shifted once he became the leader in a bad way. But at that point, they were still in this like, hey, we're trying to, modernize our country and catch up with the rest of the world. And in some ways, we feel like we're even getting ahead in these other areas, right? They were really pushing. And I could pretty much go wherever I wanted, with exceptions. I definitely had minders, but I wasn't assigned one. They were just lurky dudes. They call them evil uncles. Evil uncles hang around. There's these like 40, 50 something dudes who smoke cigarettes down the block, and they're just looking at you, and they look like curious locals, but they're not. Okay. Yeah. So
in Russia, they were women. They were the women that sat on every floor at the elevator entrance and exit. Yes. They would just sit there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
same mentality.
Yeah. And they don't even have,
he's left. The foreigner has left.
Yes.
The foreigner's back in his room.
Yeah. And it was pretty consistent. And so when I was there, I saw, I think, each country, we make a big noise about like Voice of America and that, American propaganda during World War II and signs and buy war bonds and all that kind of shit. And sort of like the jingoistic stuff that's been slaughtered since the 80s, right? Because there has been a strategic push against America, the idea of American exceptionalism with a specific group of people, because we are exceptional, but in our democracy and our ability to fight with each other. And that is a plus, not a negative. And they've turned it into a negative. That's the goal. That's what they've been trying to do. And they've been very successful. I would argue that Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States is arguably not a warts and all history book, but a warts only history book, and that's what the goal was. And he seemed like a lovely dude, but also, in retrospect, useful idiot during that period of time. And the same thing is true of a bunch of these folks, and whether they have them on a leash or not. When I was in China and I'm walking around, it was abundantly clear that I was being steered around. And so my awareness that I was being steered around started to work its way into my interviews that I was doing there. And the show that we did there never came out. And largely because I had frank conversations with people and they'd just be over.
I didn't like that.
No. Yeah. So the show's, there's a bunch of, because it's a tourism show. I literally was there just for the tourism. I love Chinese culture. I love, I love Chinese culture, and I speak Chinese for a reason. I've studied Kung Fu most of my adult life. It's an impressive society to me. And by the way, if anybody wants to see it, go to Taiwan. It's all there. You can see real Chinese culture, eat real Chinese food and all this stuff. What's happening in China right now is largely a farce. That said, in being aware that I was being directed and where I could go and who I could talk to and during the filming of the show, that made me even more aware of what I was not seeing. That when I would look out my window of the vehicle I was in or, where I was going, I became abundantly aware of where we weren't going. And there's none of that with Tucker Carlson and his people, which means he's playing along. You know what I mean? There's no suspicion in it at all. Yes. Yeah. So there's a reason. Look,
there's a reason why I put the Lincoln quote at the end of every episode of On the Edge. Democracies are difficult. They're sloppy and they're hard with lots of moving parts. And empowering your people makes things difficult. And we hate it when our aspirations and for the ideals of our society where we don't achieve what goal we're aiming for. But here's the difference. At least we fucking try. Because what's the alternative that's being offered? What's the alternative that the Russians, for example, are offering? Fuck it. There isn't one. There are no inalienable rights.
None.
You don't get a ballot. The court system is only there for the powerful and to make the false pretense of some sort of justice in your life, but really it doesn't exist.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene wants Marjorie Taylor Greene wants a justice system that like what happened to Brittany Griner, that she can inflict on anybody that's downwind. Right. Donald Trump wants the same thing.
She'll be on the winning.
Yes, exactly.
She'll be on the winning side. That's the difference.
Right. And a bunch of these fuckers don't realize that, and this is, classic in authoritarian regimes, is that the most helpful people are the first against the wall. It's why a lot of communist revolutions don't work either, because if they get wind of the fact that, communism was never the point, we're not going to build some sort of utopian society out of your fucking mind. This is just the story I used to crawl to the top of the pile. It ain't happening. Yeah. Those people they're up against the wall first.
I get me and my family. We get the utopian. We get all the nice
shit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And by the way, you think that Sochi house was being built for Putin, at post 91? You don't think that kind of corrupt bullshit wasn't going on the last 20 years of the Soviet Union at the very least, if not the entire fucking time? If you're in, you're in. The same thing was true, Xi Jinping's family are, he's a princeling, which is one of these people born into the upper leadership of the Communist Party. Well, look, from a communist standpoint, and I'm sure I have at least one Marxist defender in my chat room someplace. Where in the fuck does familial roles in passing from generation to generation is where does that fit into communism? When does monarchy become a part of that? What? Right?
Yeah, I mean, look at what is
acceptable?
Happening right now. We are going through the process. One of the things that makes us great, we're seeing it right now. We're going through the process, and in November we will go to the ballot box and we will voice our, opinion. We will exert our power as citizens in a democracy. And as sloppy as it is, and as flawed as it is, and as often we don't hit the target that we're shooting for, which is a more just and equal society, when we fail to get that, it upsets us, and we strive to fix it when we're aware of it. These other guys, the alternatives that they're presenting is a sliver get everything, and the state is the important thing.
Right.
So fuck you.
Yeah, and I find it wonderfly, ironic that that the right wing, I personally, when George W. Bush was running for office, I had almost wished that he was on my side of the aisle. So I had another because I hated his guts and I didn't like his policies and I didn't want to be president anyways. But I would have voted against him just on the principle that I don't want my presidency handed from father to son. We fought a fucking war over that. Eat shit. I don't want I want a different, there's enough people in this fucking country. We don't need an overlapping family ever. It was reason enough just on that merit alone. So I will end with this. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, Philip Bittner has a podcast called On the Edge, a new episode every Sunday. He's going to be filming one. And I want to, if I may, Phil, I want to share this moment with you that I think sums up some of what we're talking about.
This
is, ladies and gentlemen, Sochi is where Vladimir Sochi. Yeah, Sochi is where Vladimir Putin has his big palace that we were talking about. And these are beachgoers in Russia, in Sochi, rolling a mine up onto the beach that they found.
Got detached.
Floated up. Yeah, detached sea mine. Like washed up, and these assholes were rolling it up the beach. And you want to talk about using using Darwinism as a reasoning as to why people should run the world. I just got to say,
we do not want to become Putin's Russia. That's why Ukraine is fighting as hard as they are.
That's right. Nobody does. Nobody needs that shit. Nobody needs so, thank you so much, Phil.
Sunday on the Edge. It'll be a good one. We'll talk about Europe and its involvement in Ukraine. 10 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock p.m. Kiev time. But I'll talk to you next, Hal, on Saturday.
Yes, on Saturday on the radio show.
Yes?
Absolutely.
All right. Yep. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right.
Thank you so
much.
much.
It was a great night last night, and it's a sad anniversary. Always is. But I have hope. I have hope.
Yes, it's a hopeful day.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
It is.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely and talented Philip Ittner, a man whose depth of knowledge historically is as copious and well-formed as his beard, if not more so. Do I have? Yeah. Oh, God, I'm over time. Okay, I've got some prep stuff to do, and I will see you guys this afternoon for the afternoon show, 3 o'clock Pacific time. Hal Sparks Megaworldwide, the greatest live stream ever. This afternoon, 3 o'clock. Now, how can you say that, Hal? Well, because we're finishing this one, and today this was. But we can always get better. We can always improve. And to everybody in the chat room, I would like to say, if you're not going to make somebody's day, don't leave the house. Just say it. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I'll see you this afternoon. I've got so much. I got to rest my voice. And then I want to work on